We can get started. I would suggest that I don't know who's here. I see a whole bunch of handsome, wonderful people across the top here, but whoever else is here, if you have a question, just please say who you are because I don't know who's here and who's not. I see a few people, but we'll see who's here once the presentation begins. This is for the sake of
Matt, I just want to say a couple things.
yeah. Let me just start to get this
Yeah,
thing
okay.
going. This is the Town of Woodbridge Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen joint meeting to discuss capital budgets. And tonight is Thursday, December 2nd, 2021. This is the first of two meetings. The second meeting will be next Tuesday, which is I guess, the 7th. So go ahead, Tony.
So this is our 6-year capital plan to review our 6-year capital plan for FY23. And I just want to sort of review, Karen, if you could share my screen.
Oh, sorry. You could, I handed it
I'm all
off.
set now? Yeah, okay. So this is the summary. I thought it would be helpful to review this just real quick. This is the summary of our 6-year plan, and it's a helpful document to review all the requests. In summary, there are backup and individual project sheets for each project on this schedule, but this helps you to see it all in one place. The years 2 through 6 across the top. There's the years across the top, of course, in the departments along the side. Years 2 through 6 are for planning purposes and to give the town an idea of where we're headed and what capital expenditures lie ahead in the future. The first year, which in this case is 2023, there's a few things to have of note. First of all, the items that are bolded indicate those that are to be requested to be funded that we would use tax dollars for. And if it's not bolded, then there's some other funding source. In the case of the former firehouse, for instance, $2.1 million. That's in the schedule for a bond issue. So that's something that would require separate approval and would not be part of the budget in terms of taxes until it would be approved through the normal process. So this again would be a planning tool only until it is approved by the town at a town meeting or a referendum vote. Let's see. So you see all the projects going down here. On some of these projects, for instance, in the Board of Education, we currently put them in as tax dollars. However, there could be an argument for some of these to be funded through a bond issue. If that were to be the case, then that would change the funding structure of some of these. So that's something we can discuss as we move forward. I just want to also show you, so you have all the departments here that you'll be reviewing. Some of them are split. For instance, in the senior center, if you look at the handicapped vehicle, we have a 1 and 2 next to it. That highlights the fact that, as this footnote indicates, the general fund budget or taxes out in the 1, 2, 3, 4th year would be 15,000, and we get a state grant of 55,000. So, and I'll show you how this all ties together at the end. There's another split one here in Public Works. We typically use our $65,000 LoSiP grant to offset our paving costs. So really the tax dollars in this particular project is 785. And lastly, I want to show you the end summarizes the funding portion of the requests. So you can see the two balance each other. And these are the funding sources along the side here. So of note here would be the requests that total $2.6 million for operating budget costs. Those are the ones that would be put in the mill rate. The grants, 65,000, that's the LoSiP grant that I mentioned. And for this particular year, the 2.1 is the former firehouse. Just for a point of reference, last year's capital budget was $978,000. So that would be the tax portion of it, or the current funding portion of the operating budget, capital budget rather. Last year was just under $1 million. So that sort of gives you an idea of where we are here.
But
If
then
there's
you
any questions, or-
started at a bigger number, a much larger number.
Yes, last year it
we-
started at a similar number, correct?
Right, now it's always up there and we get it down to
Correct,
what we can afford.
right. That's it. I just wanted to mention that. If there's any
Okay.
questions, or as we go, feel free to ask.
Okay. Then per our schedule, the first, you all set, Tom?
Yep, I'm all set.
The first presentation tonight is the Woodbridge Police Department. And we have with us tonight, I believe, I'm assuming it's Chief Frank Cappiello and Deputy Chief, I'm sorry, I've never met you. Is it Ronald Smith?
Yes, it is.
Okay, welcome aboard.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Frank, where are you?
I'm
I got,
here, man.
there he is. Okay.
Yeah, I'm here. Good evening, everyone. And just before starting, I know some of you just met our new Deputy Chief, Ron Smith. And I just wanted to introduce you quickly. He started with us in August after a lengthy career with the Hampton Police Department. And this evening, he'll get a further insight into our town's budgeting process. So we welcome him here tonight alongside me. So we have 5 capital budget requests for projects that we feel are needed to ensure our safe and efficient operations. And as you saw, the vehicle replacement and repair of the building's intercom system, the installation of additional access control points for our electronic door locking system, the acquisition of an additional speed awareness monitoring trailer, and pushed out into fiscal year 24 or somewhere into the future will be the future renovations of the police facility. So I'll start, I guess, with vehicles. So to ensure a dependable emergency response fleet and to provide our officers with mechanically sound and reliable vehicles for their safety and for the safety of the community, we're seeking the purchase of 3 new vehicles. 2 of those would be for the patrol division and 1 would be for an administrative vehicle. For the patrol division, we're seeking 2 2022 Ford Interceptor patrol SUV marked vehicles and 1 2022 Ford Explorer administrative SUV unmarked vehicle. The costs for the patrol SUVs are $50,916 approximately each, and the cost of the unmarked one is $44,175. So it's our intention to continue with the Ford SUVs. That's what we've gone with over the past several years, and they've always proven to be reliable and dependable for us. I just want to stress that the new vehicles that we're requesting, they're definitely not additional vehicles. They're only would be replacements. So with any new vehicle that we get and when it's put into service, we're retiring another older high mileage vehicle from our fleet. So our overall total number of vehicles doesn't increase. We currently have only 2 Ford Crown Victoria sedans left in service, and both of those are unmarked vehicles assigned to our investigative services unit. One of those is a 2008, so it's 13 years old, and it has mileage exceeding 177,000 miles. And the other one is 10 years old, and it has over 105,000 miles at this point. I mean, actually, over the summer, the gas tank actually fell off the bottom of one of those cars. And actually, it was the newer one of those 2, the 2011, while en route to an emergency call. We also have 3 patrol vehicles that are in service now that have mileages ranging, between 107,000 to in excess of 122,000 miles. And those are just the actual odometer miles. So if you calculate the idle hours on the engine, and they equate that to 1 hour of idling time equates to 33 odometer miles. That puts us with multiple emergency response vehicles over the 300,000 to 400,000 mile range on their engine. and one over the 500,000 mile range of engine, mechanical, and transmission wear and tear on the drivetrain. Any vehicles that, we get approved for in fiscal year 23, the order wouldn't be placed obviously till, sometime after July. So that means we won't see them until very late into 23, probably the fall or winter. And because we average 2,000 to 3,000 miles per month on the vehicles, it's just going to increase the mileage further on the cars that we're currently using. We have a mechanic that we've had here, we've been fortunate to have for over 30 years. And by coupling his service and a proven scheduled replacement cycle, he's been able to maximize and extend the useful lives of our vehicles. But, over the past several years, that cycle has been scaled back, and unfortunately, we've purchased fewer cars. And as a result of that, because of the vehicle age, high mileages, and mechanical conditions we're being faced with, we've had a lot of repairs, which have driven up both associated lines in our current operating budget. So we're starting to get way over where we should be at this point. As of this morning, I checked in our mechanic, just for his service hours line, we're already at just over 54% used already. And it's only the first, 4 months of the fiscal year. And on the vehicle repair maintenance line, we're at 75.6%. So, that's pretty much has to do with high mileage and the cars getting older. As we've done in the past, we'll continue to maintain 2 older vehicles for use of traffic and extra duty assignments, and that'll limit the idle mileage and maintenance on our newer vehicles. And at the same time, that generates revenue for the town. Last year, it generated over $42,000, and it was a little bit quieter there with road construction jobs during COVID and throughout the pandemic. But the year before, the cars brought in like over 100,000, and the year before that, fiscal year 19, $74,000. So that's what we're seeking as far as the vehicles.
Okay, why don't you run through all your projects and then we'll have questions at the end, okay?
Okay, good.
Just one question I had. Have you talked to any other departments? Is there a problem getting vehicles? As you know, there's a shortage of all kinds of vehicles. Is there a shortage of police vehicles?
Yes, there is. And actually, the one we were approved for this current year, we ordered that, and they told us they estimated an 18 week lead time. So with that being said, I anticipate it's gonna be longer than that. And then once that's just getting the car here, then it needs to have some paint work done and be outfitted. So yeah, it is. And I think one of the neighboring towns, they just were in the same predicament, and they had to switch to a whole nother brand because they just can't get that. It's problematic all the way around. Our second project is the building intercom system. So to maximize, again, the safety of the officers, prisoners being processed or detained, and the members of the public who come into the building or into the lobby, we're seeking the replacement and associated repair of our facilities intercom system, which is currently inoperable in several critical areas. Norcom Connecticut is our vendor for the project, as it's tied into the dispatch console area, not the actual radio console, but the whole setup up in front there. So the problem we're having is that the current 10-call master station for the intercom system, that's the original unit that was in there. So it's approximately 20 years old and it's failed. So that needs to be replaced along with some of the substations throughout the building that are inoperable. So we have some spots where somewhere you can only hear, some you can't communicate back and speak back. So you can't have a conversation. And those areas not only house prisoners during arrest processing and detention, but also accommodate the public when they come into the lobby, the front lobby. We actually have to have a sign out there, telling them to pick up the phone that's in there and communicate with the person inside. So, and the cost for that is just above $6,000, and it's consistent with current state of Connecticut contract pricing. The next project we had is associated with our door locking system. So the S2 door locking system that was already approved and funded and will be installed during this current fiscal year. We're looking to further enhance our building security and safety by expanding the monitoring restrictions and administratively controlled access to additional doors throughout our building. The initial and current funding for the project included the 16-port control unit and server and security for just 4 doors, and that was to cover the main front and back entries to our buildings. Because it's a 16-port unit, that leaves us with the capability to add 12 more access points. So we spread that cost out over the next 3 years. And for this upcoming fiscal year 23, we've chosen 5 access points that we felt were of the next most importance: the prisoner detention and cell block areas, the records room, the armory, and the property and evidence room. The administrative control to these areas, besides providing increased security, it also allows us to have documented preservation of operational integrity associated with the detention of prisoners and the storage of reports and criminal records, weapons, and seized property evidence. The same type of system is already in place at the town hall and the firehouse, public works. The center building just got it. So most of the other town buildings have it, but not here at the PD, and where we're open 24/7. So we're looking to totally complete the project, and it equates to adding those 12 more access points over the next. Our 4th project is the speed awareness monitoring trailer. So in keeping with our ongoing goal of promoting highway safety and reducing motor vehicle accidents and injuries, for this year, we're proposing the purchase of an additional speed awareness monitoring trailer. The cost is approximately $9,448. Our current trailer remains in constant use and is always being requested. And really, because it's so highly visible and it can be easily relocated from one area to another, it's proven invaluable to us as an asset in addressing the concerns of the residents. And this new speed trailer will also be equipped with the capabilities to preserve some traffic data, and the analysis of that data can be used to further enhance our efforts to lower speed, and that's be essential in the reduction of crash frequency and injury severity. So with that said, I just want to turn it over to the Deputy Chief, has some additional information to share relevant to the importance of the speed trailer.
Thank you, Chief. I just recently compiled some data as to some of the traffic issues that we're having here in Woodbridge. Over the past year, motor vehicle accidents have increased 19.8% from the same time last year. Motor vehicle accidents with injuries have increased 19%, and motor vehicle accidents without injuries have increased 20%. With that being said, our officers have been very proactive for the last 4 months. Since I've been here, compared to the 4 months in the previous year, our motor vehicle activity has gone up over 2,000%. So we've made approximately 619 motor vehicle stops in the last 4 months on traffic violations occurring within our town. The speed trailer serves many purposes, as the chief had alluded to. It provides motorists with their real-time speed. So when they see if they're going fast, most motorists will reduce their speeds, and it increases awareness as to the speed limit in a specific area. They're most effective if we put a blue and a red light attached to it, because motorists will believe that it's a police vehicle. That seems to slow vehicles down when the speed trailer mimics a police vehicle. And most importantly, it collects traffic data, as the chief had stated. In town here, one of our primary concerns of our residents are speeding vehicles. Vehicles, are speeding everywhere. We have several major roads, but even in our secondary roads, we're getting complaints about people driving reasonably fast. So what this would do for us, if we can collect data, we could actually have information as to where to put our resources, where to run speed enforcement. Somewhere down the road, whether we need to, have a traffic engineer help in certain areas. They're best used in residential areas. Within the recent past, we've had people, we've done speed enforcement on Litchfield Turnpike. We've had vehicles traveling in excess of 98 miles an hour. We almost had a fatality on Litchfield Turnpike. We've had several other serious accidents. And the speed trailer would definitively work in our favor, number one, to gather data, and number two, to slow motorists down within our town.
And then the last project that we had was our building upgrade. And that renovation is in correlation with the space needs assessment from back in 2009. As you know, over the past few years, we used the steep grant funds and we're able to replace the radio tower, the old lattice tower with a monopole in the back, and construct the carport canopies. Both of those will complement any future structural renovations that we do in the future. So as we move forward into enhanced public safety operations and efficiency, we anticipate the renovation of the police department someday will become a reality. We understand and respect the current economic climate, and that's why we've moved it out for fiscal year 24 or sometime, hopefully shortly thereafter. And that's our the 5 projects.
Okay, thank you, Frank and Deputy Chief Smith. Questions? Any questions of the chief or the deputy chief?
Matt, it's Beth.
Yeah.
Is it okay to go ahead?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thanks. I just have 2 comments. Thank you both chiefs for the presentation this evening. I can comment, number one, on the speeding, that seems to be one of the highest things that I hear about from residents, especially on Frank knows, because I send them to Frank and then he responds to the residents. And it's at least 5 or 6 a week that come in, and especially on Route 67 is another one where it's very dangerous, the curves, and there's a lot of accidents up there. So hopefully we can see about getting this done. And lastly, just to let you know, Tony, Betsy, and I met with our current legislators, Mary Wielander, State Rep, Senator Maroney, and Senator Cabrera last week. And I asked them to please, because I heard a rumor that maybe some kind of Homeland Security grants will become available. I don't know, but I said, keep us on your radar if there's something, because I said we desperately need a new police department. We need some upgrades. So they're aware of it, and hopefully we can get some tax dollars that way. It's all our tax money, but maybe it'll come out of, a different source. So I just wanted to let you know that we're trying so hard. It's just something that needs to be done. So that's my comments. Thanks.
Great, thanks.
Okay. Anybody else?
Matt?
Yeah.
Right. I get a few questions. What does it cost to, once you get the vehicle, what is the cost to get it ready for the street? To outfit it and everything else with the lights and sirens and all that?
Yeah, so that was the complete price with the lights and signs and everything. The 50,000.
Okay, so that's complete. So that's so when you buy the vehicle, you get it all outfitted, radios and everything else for that price.
We do for that price, yeah. And it might even be a little bit less, whatever
Okay.
things that we're able to transfer over with conversion kits, they'll do that. So
Okay.
that should exceed that, correct. Yeah.
Okay. Because it really didn't say that. I just had a question on that. That's all.
Yeah, no, that's the complete.
Okay. And then the intercom system. You're saying the wiring that's there, existing wiring. Has that been tested? Or do you know is it adequate to put a new intercom in, or?
So Norcom did come out and they tested it all, and that's the price quote they gave us for the new control unit, and also that includes the any work that needed to be done to the substations, to the locations that weren't working and the associated wiring. So that was the complete price for that, the whole.
Okay, okay. And then the other thing I had was the monitoring trailer. Is that a solar unit or is that, how is that powered?
Yes, it's solar powered and has a battery backup, but it's
Okay,
predominantly solar powered. Yeah.
okay, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
I had a quick question for you, Chief. With regard to speeding, the speed monitoring equipment, I wondered also though if traffic calming measures such as speed humps and those sorts of things, are those considered part of police capital improvements, or is that roadway, or do you share it, or how has it worked in the past with the funding for that?
Yeah, the funding for that has come out of Public Works pretty much for this. If it was signage or when they did the speed humps and things like that, it came not it wasn't appropriated in our budget.
Right, but it is something that comes through your traffic committee, right? For
Correct.
recommendations.
Yes. Yeah, the Legal Traffic Authority, the Board of Police Commissioners, and the Traffic Committee. Yep.
Great, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
Yep, Chief, I had a couple of questions for you. You're talking about these speed monitors. Do any of these have capabilities for cameras so that they can determine who's breaking the law, like they do at the red light, the red light cameras they have at the intersections in town? In New Haven?
The one that we priced out does not have that. There might be some that have that. I'm sure probably be more costly, but that might be an option. But that one does not have that.
It does not. Would that be something that would be useful or not really?
You know, I'm not sure. I don't know how many towns around here are doing that, so I don't know if that's something we want to take on immediately. It might be useful, but we thought if we started just promoting awareness and collecting that data,
Yeah.
starting.
I know that. Yeah. I know those slow me down. They get my attention when I'm going by them. I had a couple other questions about the police cars. I see one of them is going to be a hybrid vehicle. Is that right?
No, there's an option to get the hybrid vehicle, but I just put that on the bottom so you would know how much that would cost. That was it was an added charge for that vehicle. What was it? So if we wanted to go with a hybrid, it was an extra $4,823.
Okay. It looks to me, yeah, it looks to me like you're wearing these cars out with the idling rather than with the driving around. So wouldn't the hybrid prevent that a little bit and keep your vehicles longer?
I'm not sure if it would or not. I know in checking with the dealer, I know we've checked on this in the past, and I spoke with them again in the last few months to see how popular they were, and they haven't been a big seller, especially as far as for patrol vehicles. You know, and I think that a lot of towns are waiting for the other ones to try them out and follow suit and see if they're dependable at all.
I know New York City is trying to get away from the conventional vehicles, and they're putting on, they're changing their fleet to electric gradually and hybrid electric, and they're also instituting idle reduction technologies because both for the wear and tear on the cars, for the consumption of gas and the cost of that, and also because of the pollution. And we joined the Paris Climate Agreement, and Connecticut signed on to that. And I know the state is trying to get their vehicles to be less polluting. And I wonder, what our thinking is here in town to try to get onto that bandwagon.
Yeah, and I think moving forward, if that's the way communities progress, we'll probably go on with that. I don't know if we want to be on the forefront of that yet. I'm not sure. Our mechanic was a little bit leery of it, only because I think everyone's being skeptical of spending the extra money on that and not being certain if we're going to get the dependability that they're seeking. We might, but I don't know who's going to be the first risk takers or someone to prove that right or wrong. I mean, it's an option. It's another $5,000 if that's what we choose.
Well, you have to figure what the payback time is and how much longer the vehicle will last. I mean, generally speaking, for the grip technology, which is that idle reduction technology, payback is about a year. And if you're keeping these cars, you have 17, you're keeping them 4 or 5 years. Seems like you would have, that would be beneficial, in terms of cost and in terms of pollution, in terms of gasoline. The other thing I wanted to ask you is, the number of police cars that you need, that you have in service and you generally use on a daily basis, and your reserves. What number of cars are you comfortable with having?
I wouldn't go any less than the number of cars that we have now. Um, with that said, we absolutely need to maintain a fleet of no less than that number of, sound cars and have them readily accessible to ensure, public and officer safety. Not having a sufficient number of vehicles available at all times to respond to a call for service is not an option for us. So it's like, it's kind of, I equate it to like, if you look at public works, they have vehicles and, and they're not all out at the same time
Right, I understand that. So you have active vehicles, and then you have vehicles which are kind of on their last legs that you don't use, and then you have vehicles which you have in reserve. So in terms of how many working reliable vehicles, how many of those are you comfortable having? How many do you need to run your department?
Right now, we have 10 patrol vehicles, and 2 of those are just road job cars, so they're not really reliable for control function, but so we have 8, so definitely
Yeah,
no.
yeah, 8, okay.
Yeah. But if you think about it, at any given time, just for those 8 patrol cars, on a daily basis, say we have 3 officers working and a sergeant, there's 4 cars. Every day, 2 cars are assigned to the SRO. So there's a car at the high school and there's a car at Beecher Road School for presence. So and then cars going on our road jobs, and then we also have to get people to court and training, and if we have storm or road closures for an accident, besides having cars to respond to multiple calls, we need to block off roads during storm. So, um, we've maintained the number that we have now for years, and it seems to be a suitable number. It's worked well. We don't need to increase it, but we need to just maintain that number in sound working condition.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, hearing nobody. Chief, Deputy Chief, thank you very much.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Okay, next on the agenda is the Recreation Commission. You know who that means? Mr. Adamowicz,
Hello?
are you around somewhere?
Can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Yes, John.
Okay. I'm here. Recreation, we have in progress the shuffleball courts. We were going to put another shuffleball court out. We have one out already, but because of COVID, we've shut down and not done it. And we're going to be trying to put it out again in the spring. We also have money that's saved in our skating rink. We have a skating rink that we just put up like this. We're getting ready to fill it with water. And we have a reserve of $8,000 for the a new liner. Our liner is 3 years old and it's still in great shape. The average life of a liner is 3 to 5 years. Ours is in great shape. The Public Works does a great job, Timmy, packing everything away, putting everything away neatly. So we're going to save a lot of money there. So I think our liner is going to last for a long time. The first year, in year 2023, we're looking for a gymnastic replacement of equipment. This is that we do. It's an ongoing thing. But what happened right now is the tall balance beam was unsafe. Bolts started to crack. We couldn't tighten it. So we took it out of service. So it's totally out of service. And that's what this money is for, is to replace that program, which runs 3 times a year. It runs in the fall, the winter, and the spring. and it's a major part of our program. But right now, we're just dealing with a low balance beam, which is only 4 to 6 inches off the floor, where this is 3 feet off the floor, and we use it in that program. So that's the replacement there. The next part of 2023 is going to be a treadmill replacement and elliptical machine replacement. The treadmill is 10 years old. It's way beyond its lifetime of being used. These are industrial grade equipment that we use, and the elliptical is 8 years old. So we're looking to replace those two pieces of equipment. Each year we try to replace at least 1 or 2 pieces of equipment to keep ourselves up to date for safety reasons. That's 4. The next one would be 2024 outdoor volleyball court. Our outdoor volleyball court during pandemic was really great. In the spring and in the summer and the beginning of the fall, set up over at the country club area. It's in great shape. The only problem is when we have heavy rainstorms and everything, the sand washes off and goes off to the side like this, and we lose the structure of the flatness of the court. We have to try to refix it each time. And what happens is when you put the PVC boundary around the outside, totally keeps everything inside, and we lose nothing, and we don't have to do really any maintenance except for raking the court itself. Let me just go back again to the treadmill and the elliptical. The treadmill is in 2023. The elliptical is not part of that. The elliptical is 2025. In 2025, that's when we'll be replacing the elliptical. It doesn't get beat on as much as the treadmill, so it can last another 2 years. In 2026, the fitness trails. We have tremendous fitness trails over at the Solis property across the street from the firehouse. It's really great. The Boy Scouts came in and they have 3 times refurbished the fitness trail stations. And I think at this point, it's time that we look into this down the road. Maybe we can last another year. These are Eagle Scouts that come in. I think maybe one more time an Eagle Scout coming in, and we can go to 2026 with that. 2027, we're looking at a basketball court. We had a basketball court, a full-size basketball court at West River Field. The basketball court came within 6 feet of the foul line of the right field of the ballpark there, which is not enough time. You need at least 12 feet after the foul line so that the player can run after a ball and run out of bounds to make a catch. We only had 3 feet. So that court was removed for safety reasons. And the only other courts we have is we have at Beecher Road School North. There are 2 courts on the tennis courts, which are nice courts, but cannot be used when school's in session. And so they're not being allowed to be used. So nobody can go on those courts until, nighttime, until it's late. And the other court we have is at the Allegri property. That's a small court. That's only a half court. And one basket is held at 10-foot regulation size, and the other basket is for smaller children. It's at 8 feet. Right? So it's only like a half court. So we're looking to try to put maybe down the road, put in one outdoor basketball court that can be used year-round, sunrise to sunset. The next one is the town recreational tent. We thought we were going to get away and be able to get the tent from the Woodbridge Country Club. There, it didn't work out. When we took it out like this and started pulling apart, it was stuck together. It ripped, and it was so much money. That was a very big tent, and the frame is still there. The frame is there, but we're not going to be able to use that. So I was looking for a smaller tent, something large enough so that when we have the road race or the town needs to put up a tent. One year, Wayne Luciani let us borrow one of his circus tents. It was beautiful for the road race. We were able to put it up, and it was something that I think would be used by all departments, not just the recreation department, but we could all use that thing for different things that we do around the town, different projects. And the last one is Matt Gigoletti loves this one. This is the 90-foot diamond. I said that was a little joke, but I just like to say that commissioner for the recreation department for many years, Stan Gdansky, passed away, and I was visiting him. He was my mentor going back 20, 30 years with the baseball diamond and everything like that. And we talked about the diamond. We talked about that, like this. And he just recently passed away. So he was a good asset to the town of Woodbridge in everything, even Amity High School. So that's what we offered, and that's what we have. So I left it in the budget for down the road, 2028. Just that maybe someday when things get a little bit better and the economy gets a little bit better, we might be able to look at putting in a 90-foot diamond that we don't have. We have no diamond except for the high school, and that diamond is very limited to our use. That we can use it, and that's our presentation of our budget for the 6-year capital budget.
Okay, thank you. Questions?
I'm sorry. Any questions?
Yeah,
Questions?
hey, Chuck.
I got a quick question for John. Johnny?
Go
Yeah,
ahead, Dwight.
John, it's Dwight. How are you?
good.
How much maintenance do you actually spend? How much money in maintenance do you spend to keep up all the equipment in the fitness center?
How much maintenance to keep the equipment
how
there?
much? Just say
Probably
roughly.
zero. Anywhere, some of the equipment we have to buy when we have to buy parts. That's all we have to do is buy parts. Rob Kenyon, who's in charge of the fitness center, and John Vecchio. Rob's an expert on mechanics, and Rob makes everything work there and knows exactly what to do. So we don't have a contract because we're able to fix it ourselves. So
Okay.
maintenance-wise, I would say $1,000 a year at most. Anywhere from 500 to 1,000 at most, buying parts that we need to replace to fix things that are there to make them go. And Rob does a great job of keeping things in shape.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I have a question, probably more for Tony. Tony, is there any chance that these outdoor tents can fit into the COVID budget figures?
In terms of the ARP grant?
Yeah, in terms of the grants that have been given for things that relate to COVID, if we're using tents more for outdoor events.
And if it's for outdoor programming, then yes, that is something we could actually look into. It's a good thought. We'll put that on our list and see if that's something we can do.
Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, I had 2 questions and a comment. John, do you have an idea where you want to put this basketball court?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
The only reason why I say that is it's a permanent structure.
Right.
You can't put it at the Allegri property. We could put it at the Allegri property, but the Fitzgerald property, I don't think we could put things they're going to be put down and stay there. I mean, we had a ice skating rink there,
Right.
but now the dog park's there. So I think if I was going to put it, I'd like to put it central to the town so that everybody can use, they can use the walking trails, they can use the dog park, and we could have a basketball court. Probably I was mostly thinking center field, the far left field, way down in the corner. It's a beautiful spot. It doesn't interfere with any of the ball fields.
Right.
That would be an
Could it possibly go where the town tennis courts are? That's a pretty central location.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
that's
The second-
that's center field. That's center field. That's exactly what I was talking about. I'm not sure
All right.
the land in back of the tennis courts. That's the septic system area.
Okay.
That can't be used. But down in the center field itself, there might be a spot.
The second
something
question I had, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
The second question I had is about the tent. That frame, is that frame a modular frame which comes apart and can be made small so that you can use that for a smaller tent, or do you have to go and buy another frame for it?
That's one of the elite tents. When we were looking into this and moving it and doing it like that, I think the town, Tony will correct me if I'm wrong, was looking at, they could sell that. They could sell that. That's a great frame, and they would buy that. That's one of the top main frames, and it doesn't shrink. It's that one size, but it does come apart, and it could be moved, and it could be sold, and the money go back to the town.
Okay. And the third thing I have is a comment. We mentioned the fitness trail. There's one installation at the fitness trail that was put in backwards. It's a seat with a bar for your ankles, and unless you're about 7 feet tall, you can't hook your feet under that bar. The bar should be on the side of the bench, and it's on the side opposite the bench, which makes it impossible for anybody to use. I was wondering if that can be flipped around.
Absolutely. I already went down there and looked at it. I thought it was correct in the way it was done. I'm tall. I was able to use it. But I'll go down there. I have the plans, and I'll go down with Adam, and Adam and I will take a look at it. And if it belongs on the other side, definitely we will move that.
Well, yeah, well, the women can't use it because they're too short. I mean, you're a big guy, but the women are the ones who use that trail. Anyway,
Well, my wife's 5'11". I married a tall Irish girl. I don't want to piss her off.
well, she doesn't count.
No,
My
no.
wife is 5'4", and she can't reach it. She can't reach the pedals. So anyway,
All right, we'll get it moved. We'll get it moved so that everybody can use it. We'll
thank
get it
you,
moved.
Todd.
You're welcome.
Okay, anybody else? Thank you very much. Next is Public Works. Do we know if Warren's in the house?
I'm here. Hear me?
Okay. Thank you for being early, Warren.
Okay, not a problem.
Okay. Why don't you, so you're going to be doing Public Works and Waste Management.
I don't know the order of the sheets that you have, but on mine, I'll start out with truck replacement.
Okay.
You'll see the variation from year to year. The prices are lower in some years and higher in the others. What that really means is there's a pickup truck in the years where the lower amounts. In this next fiscal year, it's a pickup that is requested, and then moving out, it's a pickup, and then a frontline plow truck, and then it's a mid-sized truck in 26, and 27 is the 10-wheeler, and then in the 28 year, it's another pickup. And I think you were provided the breakdown sheet that usually accompanies my budget, and you'll get a sense of what vehicles are being replaced with the ages of them in that breakdown.
Yep.
Is there any questions about trucks? All right, I guess we'll move on to equipment replacement. First, I'd like to point out that there's a correction in this fiscal year. There's a $10,000 reduction requested because there was a piece of equipment, a tire machine, that we moved into the operating budget. So that budget can be reduced in this current fiscal year, the request by 10,000, and then overall the pen line will reduce the same amount. The critical thing that's confronting us is the boom mower. It's an older piece of equipment. Parts are becoming almost incapable of acquiring. We're keeping it nursed together. We had some structural issues with the boom, but we were able to weld up and reinforce that to keep it going for the next fiscal year. But the intent is to fund that and get that replaced as soon as we can. All of our equipment in Public Works will need to be upgraded at some point. And I try to anticipate with a timeline when we can replace those pieces of equipment. And it'll vary, next year the need may change in the order. But this year, I gave you in the breakdown sheet what our goal is. And again, the dollar amount varies in that because of the type of equipment that's going to be replaced. I am trying to keep somewhat of an even keel on the budget request so that it doesn't have a big impact, a spike in the budget. Are there any questions with equipment? Not hearing any, so we'll move on to the road construction. Uh, Again, there is always a constant need there to improve pavement. We did pretty good last year. We geared up a little differently, and it was more surface milling and pavement resurfacing. But those needs may change from year to year. We get into a full depth replacement year. Um, Obviously, there's going to be more cost involved, and it's 2 layers of asphalt. And with the price of oil that's moving very high right now, it's very important that we fund the budget in order so we can keep our program going with some consistency. But I've made an even keel request because the curve of pavement degradation and the need to replace pavement is constantly going to be there. And so I'm not really fluctuating the request based on any particular need other than the volume of roads that need to be altered. Any questions on pavement? Okay, and the next line would be the bridge and waterway. And that's the same thing. We have constant needs to do stormwater reporting issues and culvert upgrades. And some of them smaller in nature than others, but you need a reserve there to address some of the drainage problems. We don't have any major drainage project like bridge replacement or any additional piping that's of any magnitude in town. So this is just to sustain us with our operation. Any questions or comments on that?
I just have a question, Warren. It's not related to capital. I'm just curious. What are you finding with the availability, et cetera, of salt and sand and so forth?
Salt, untreated salt this year is non-existent. We went out to bid. There was no responses. I've reached out to some of the vendors, either with phone calls or with follow-up emails, and I'm not even getting return responses. Treated salt, excuse me, I have a sneeze. Sorry about that. Treated salt, our delivery is going to start tomorrow. And we bring in a seasonal amount of 600 tons based on initial need. And so we'll start filling the salt dome with that tomorrow. And I mentioned to Tony, since we can't acquire regular salt, I don't know if the issue is trucking or the availability anywheres. I don't know what the reason is, but we can use treated salt in a pinch. We've got a quote on that, and we have contact information, and we can expand off of that. And when we use treated salt, we use less salt than the regular salt. So the dollar amount that would normally be allocated for regular salt, we can turn around and we could use that if need be. Right now, the winters are mild. We hope it stays that way, and we won't have to even encroach that, but we'll see.
Okay, just curious. How about
So,
sand? You get sand, I'm sure.
So just a quick question on the salt. Are you saying that
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing you.
you could cause damage to the asphalt, or
Well, all salt to some degree has corrosion or some kind of damage to pavement and vegetation. But if we put it down computerized, and so we based on road temperature and road conditions, and so it's put down in a controlled manner, and our usage is minimal as compared to regular salt. So I don't know if that addresses your question.
so, in terms of road construction, there isn't any specific project, right? This is just a blanket 850.
Correct. That would we don't develop we evaluate every year And based on the allocation, then we determine what roads and what method of treatment we'll use. Usually we don't get even cost for asphalt product or for the bidding of the road services until probably late February or March if we're lucky. And then I can start to develop a list based on assumptions. We'll have preliminary information before the summer comes where we actually allocate the work. There's a constant need for roads that right now any road that was basically done in 99 was ready for surface replacement. So there's always an extensive list for roads.
Okay, any other questions? All right, then we're going to turn to waste management, which of course is the transfer station.
That's pretty much consistent. We still have well, there's nothing in this year requested, but appropriations to replace. We have 2 compactors up there that are aging, and we are keeping them patched together, both with the hydraulic controls, electronic controls, and the metal itself. But we initially reached out to try to replace one, and we want to do it in phases. We don't want any one compactor down at any one time. But right now they're running, but rather than get caught in an emergency where we have to definitely replace a packer, I think having a budget allocation spread out over the 6 years would be prudent to do that, just in case we have an emergency and have to get somebody in to replace a compactor. So there's funding for 2 of those done, spread out in 24 and 26, an allocation request for those. And the other thing is just equipment for maintenance. And the usual thing is a container replacement. There's nothing currently. We have been doing work on the lower rolls and structural things, the metals on the container, which stretch or bend due to the compaction and the loading. So we're maintaining those. But given the fact that 3 years from now, I'm putting in for the replacement of the container because any one container can give us a problem by then.
Any questions on waste management? Okay, Warren, thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks, Warren.
Take care. Okay. Well, final presentation is the Woodbridge Board of Education. Are they here?
We're here.
Okay, let me just get the.
All right. I'm happy to see you all, everyone. Tonight I'm joined here by Jeff Hughes, Chair of our Facilities Committee from the Board of Education. And I think Karen has set us up to do a brief presentation to you via slides to complement the materials you got. So if I can just pull it up for one moment. Matt, you're on my screen. Can you tell me if you can see that, please?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Well, it's good to see you all. And Jeff and I are here on behalf of the Board of Education. And we hope to give you some insight into what's brought these 4 capital proposals to you this evening. Just as a few core principles, I'm saying some things I know we all believe in. The school is the building. It's so important that we have a great building for our students to learn in. But tomorrow is inside this building. It's the next teachers, superintendents, doctors, selectmen, etc. The next generations of those are at Beecher Road School right now. The town has created a wonderful thing here at Beecher Road School and on its 40 acres of the ground, a jewel within Woodbridge. And we have over 1,000 students and staff here every day, plus dozens of other residents who participate in programs through the town recreation department 7 days a week. And certainly both our school and the town are supported well by the grounds of the school. So we do thank you and all of your predecessors for their great support. Now, have supported a really strong renovation of this building, and the most recent one started way back with a committee in 2011. We listed there on the second bullet, really for the public's insight, some of the key upgrades that happened at Beecher Road School at that time. And the project in January 2017 came in a little under budget, and the bonds are still being paid off. And I can tell you every day, great things happen at Beecher Road School because of that investment of the community. But this past September, the Board of Education established an ad hoc capital plan committee. And knowing that we'd be coming to you with a capital plan request, and I had come to the district last December, we've had board members rotate into the board the past few months. The combined interest was to say, when we came to you this evening, that we would really be able to present the best capital plan. And why don't we get a committee together to really look at that? So we had a committee formed of town representative, Deputy First Selectman Sheila McCrevin. We had board representatives, some of our key staff, teacher, etc. And our Board of Education heard a proposal on November 15th and unanimously are bringing this proposal to you this evening. But I have to say, we want to hear your feedback. You are partners in our journey. So I will certainly bring your feedback to the Board of Education members and the committee, many of whom are watching this evening, and you might suggest changes, which we're happy to integrate. Now, while we're talking about the capital budget, we thought it was important that I mention that some really important building needs are going to be met through our ARP-ESSER pandemic grant and also through our operating budget. So if I could just briefly talk about the ARP-ESSER grant and the operating budget before we get to the capital. And the idea here is we're not trying to say that everything needs to go into the capital budget. So for example, you may be familiar with the fact that every Board of Education in the state, local and regional, received an ARP-ESSER pandemic grant. And ours is about $400,000 in Woodbridge pre-K 6. There are several priorities for that grant from the federal government, but one of them is building safe and healthy schools, which means from our perspective on the Board of Education, that some of this funding can be used for some building and grounds needs here at Beecher. Now, as you see in the second box down, there's an important caveat. Because it's federal money, it can supplement but not supplant the local funding obligation. So if in the judgment of the government, the local town should be doing it already, we can't put it in grant funding. But we can use the grant funding for some really important things, and we've listed a few in purple. Our intention is to get new design services, for example, related to our parking lots and sidewalks. Before we do full-scale replacement of parking lots and sidewalks, do we want to change any of the traffic flow, for example? If we're going to think about any repurposing of existing spaces in the building, let's get some professional architects in here to look at that. And I'll come back to that idea in a minute. And then ultimately, if there is an interest in some reorganization within this building, et cetera, ARP-ESSER funds can be used for that purpose. I think some members of the Board of Finance or Board of Selectmen have asked me about this grant before, so I felt it was important to include a little information tonight to say that we're responsibly using it. And right now, I should say $0 of this grant have been utilized. We're integrating it into the work of the district on this topic. Then we get the operating budget. Now, there's a couple of philosophies here. We are proposing through the capital budget 4 key projects over 6 years. And we're saying that smaller things would come into our operating budget. Now, you as town leaders might say, put more in the capital budget. Don't put those things in the operating budget. But I'm representing where the committee and the Board of Education are right now. So you see there are some, I'll say, smaller things listed here. For example, a necessary telephone upgrade to move us from analog to digital phones. Here, fiber optic technology here at Beecher. We think that there's the ability to do that this year or next year in the operating budget. The next to last bullet on this page, you might remember previous presentations to you have always put in $20,000 every year for technology infrastructure. And that's a fine way to do it. But our current proposal is to put that as an item in our operating budget and to save the capital budget for these four items on the next page, which obviously are infrastructure, structural things. They last long, hopefully. They exceed $25,000, and you, our partners, help approve these and appropriate funding as you would like. So you've seen the 4 pages. This lays out our requests graphically. I'm going to spend the most time talking about roof replacement and the second item, flooring remediation, because those are 2 requests we're making for fiscal year 23. And we really have made a determined effort to make this a logical sequence over 6 years. So we are pretty confident coming to you today that if you can support roof replacement, flooring remediation, fiscal year 23, we then will have the need for drainage issues and parking lots and sidewalks moving forward after that. So just a little bit on each of these 4. Roof replacement. There's nothing like a 10-second video, if you will. Let's see if this plays. Okay, this is the front foyer of Beecher, and you, I hope, can see the rain coming down and the garbage cans collecting it. Now, we don't like to have the garbage cans. They're unsightly. But of course, if we don't do that, we have some liability trip hazards. This is right in the main foyer off of the front, outside the front office. Now, one second. You see there a couple of other visuals. We obviously have cosmetic issues because of this. You see some tiles inside one of the classrooms because of the roof leaking. But the rightmost picture here is blue towels that are up against the roof decking on the inside of the building to prevent the rain from dripping into classrooms. And Vito Asparo, as an excellent facilities manager, points out to me that our roof reports on the status of our roofs indicate that because of the flat roofs, the drips are not always directly where the problem is, right? The water travels several feet sometimes. So our proposal in some way came to you last year, but I have to say it's changed a bit. Last year, previous leaders recommended some restoration and some replacement. We are recommending replacement. Why are we doing that? Well, the 3 roofs in question are between 24 to 26 years old. The reports we have indicate that at least 50% of the insulation inside of them is wet, and recoating the roofs, which is really the restoration, doesn't solve that issue. And as we say, enhanced insulation can lower our operational costs. But the other thing is roof replacement can be attributed to a state school construction grant and get us 28 cents on the dollar. The state will reimburse 28% of replacement. They will not do that for restoration. So you might have noticed on the earlier slide, our hope is that if the town can commit to a capital plan expenditure between fiscal year 23 and 24 for the roof replacement, the board's operating budget will absorb about $20,000 for architect fees to lay out that roof replacement. And then the particular dollar figure, 337, 500, and 350, that may go down, but the architectural study is actually required by the state of Connecticut before you apply for the grant funding. That's roof replacement. The second topic is a long title. There was no way to shorten it, I'm sorry. It's flooring remediation tied to potential building reorganization, repurposing, and or expansion. This is about the building at Beecher Road School, the building Jeff and I are sitting in right this second. And what we studied on our committee and at the board is how is space being used at Beecher right now? And what I'll honestly reflect to you is we're using the space well. Kids are learning well, but we're really using some spaces in some ways they weren't designed. So for example, the top row, based on the needs of our kids, we need 55 typical classroom spaces. Our building has 54 such spaces. So this year, and it will continue in the future, we've taken a really large rotunda and we've had to put a class in there. If you look at the second row, we need 18 spaces for small group instruction, but we only have 13 of those actual spaces. So we've had to take, say, our fitness center commons, a huge room, and subdivide it. And I think we're at the point where somebody might say, listen, should we subdivide those spaces more permanently? Should we make some moves that weren't anticipated 5 or 10 years ago? And you might say, well, why weren't they thought of 5 or 10 years ago? We have different needs of the students now, right? So one of the needs, not the only need, is for students who need special education intensive classrooms. 5 to 10 years ago, many of those kids were outplaced. We only have one outplaced student at Beecher now, and that's a budget savings because to educate them in the building costs a lot less than outside. But it does mean we need more space reconfigured. Now, why does this matter at all? I've included here our enrollment projections to show you that basically the enrollment is stable. Now, you could say that it looks like it's going to go down by 40 kids in 8 years. You're correct about that. But when you look at those 40 projected kids across 7 grades, we're still going to need the same amount of spaces in 7 years as we do now. And because of that, we have to think about, are there different ways this building should be configured? What does this have to do with flooring remediation? Last year, we said to you that we would like $141,000 for flooring replacement for fiscal year 23. The flooring relates to required abatement of hazardous material beneath the flooring, right? The ARP ESSER funding is going to allow us to get some design services in here to look at the rest of the space in terms of flooring. But we're asking for $125,000 for fiscal year 23 to do the flooring that has to be replaced in areas of the building where abatement is necessary. So there's a kind of a to be determined number on this for the next 6 years, but the 125 in fiscal year 23 is similar to what you saw last year. If I can talk about the third and fourth topics briefly, drainage issues. Now, on the left might look like a pond, but it should not look like a pond. It is a corner of a courtyard, and it's off of the south ramp area. And that was on a rainy day a few weeks ago. And because the water is in those sections, we also have incursion of the water. On the right-hand side, this is in a south area of the building, and that's an outside door on the left. And can you see a towel at the bottom, which has been put to keep the water out, yet the water is still coming in during a rainstorm. This is because of the slope of the sidewalk. So in 2011, Fuss and O'Neill did a study. The town invested good money into some of the drainage issues, but we need more, right? There's still ponding, there's still incursion. So we're putting a capital plan request forward to do some improvements in this area in summer 24 and summer 25. And again, we're going to use some of that ARP ESSER money to do the design services so that the money is really well spent. And then our parking lots and sidewalks. Now, I want to say some parking lots and sidewalks are great, but these three are a few of the ones that aren't. The leftmost is an emergency egress sidewalk from a classroom. Obviously, that's been damaged by tree roots over time. The middle picture is where a bus typically drops off kids in the north parking lot, and you see it's been eroded there. And the rightmost picture shows a couple of problems, but essentially it's that the water has really rotted away a sidewalk and pathway next to the building. So we have a lot of sidewalks and parking lots, and it would not be responsible to say, hey, let's just randomly start fixing them. So we would like to use the ARP ESSER money to architecturally design Where should the parking lots be? Where should the parents and the buses be dropping off their children? And then ultimately, the plan you see divides $600,000 from fiscal year 24 to 28. That figure could change downward, but it's a placeholder now based on what we knew before. This represents graphically what you exactly saw in the documents we sent you. This slide, really, I would love to spend 20 minutes on, but I won't. The thing is, we can't thank you enough. You've put a lot of effort, time, and money into this building. And this Board of Education, myself, we want to do as much as we can to help be good stewards of it into the future. There are children as people who represent the town of Woodbridge, and we really thank you for all your support in the past and in the future. I am positive you have questions. Jeff and I will be happy to answer them. And again, your feedback's going to be helpful. We'll be happy to take it to the board. So I'll stop sharing, and that'll let us all see each other a little bit better.
I just one comment, Tony, didn't, we had a bond issue we were proposing that got sidelined, right?
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
So we discussed, Dr. Budd and I discussed this issue, and we felt it would be best for the Board of Education to present their projects and, as Dr. Budd has, and to discuss the funding, right? So there's some options here in terms of funding the projects. You could decide you want to bond for the roofs or the flooring, or you can create a project around what you feel is most necessary initially. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. So we felt it would be helpful to have this discussion at first, and then we can discuss sort of the best ways to fund these projects. I'm sure Dr. Budd and the Board of Education have some that are more priority than others. And so that would be sort of the discussion. And if you borrow the money right now, the rates are pretty low. That would save current dollars. So.
Yeah, I think the roofs, obviously, 1 year out or current year, the roofs have got to be replaced. If they're 24 and 25 years old and they're leaking, and so that's something I think we should consider. Again, I don't know where this bond is. The one we had the firehouse and we had all this. That's kind of been put on the back burner. Is that
For the moment, yes.
Yeah.
But right, and also the Board of Education wanted to take another look at the roof, as Dr. Budd indicated, and so we were sort of waiting until their proposal came forward, which you have in front of you this evening, which is a little different than what we had heard last year. So.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yes, Matt, Dr. Budd, I just wanted to thank you very much for the presentation. And just to say that, while I don't have specific questions right now, you've given us, at least you've given me a lot to think about. And, to review what you've said, it's different when you see it on paper and then hear you present it. So I'd like to look at it more closely. And of course, we know that you and Jeff and others are always available for questions that come up, and discussing this with Tony. So I don't think a lack of questions right now means not listening closely to what you've said. And it was extremely informative, but there's a lot for us to digest at this moment. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Ellen. That's a very valid point. I also encourage everyone to, take a walk around the school, as I have many times. A lot of these capital improvements we're looking for are very visual. It doesn't take a facility's eyes to see what's going on, and just walk the sidewalks, come during a rainstorm. We'll be happy to show you around, answer questions, and go from there.
Thank you. Yes, I know that and appreciate it. Thank you.
I just wanted to.
Speak out, anybody.
Hi, it's Sheila over here. I'm in this box. I just wanted to thank everyone again. I think the process of having that ad hoc capital planning committee was very helpful. We had a lot of robust discussion. We kind of shared some stories from the past. One of the things that we highlighted, and I know Jonathan mentioned it, was the need to try to take advantage of any kind of state funding that is possible. And when we were contemplating the repairs to the roof last year, as part of what we were discussing, that replacement versus refurbishment and what qualifies and what doesn't, one of the things we focused on at the committee level was there's a deadline to get in line with the state for that kind of money. And it's usually at the end of the fiscal year, the June 30th deadline. So I know we have a capital planning process here. We're going to have some additional meetings. We're going to make some decisions. But just for the Board of Ed to also keep in mind, they have some motions that they would need to pass. The town would need to be involved in any sort of oversight of a building project like this that would address these roofs and qualify. So there's a couple of different kind of funding source pieces to pull together. But I think this is a great start so that we see kind of the full scope of what you're dealing with at Beecher Road School. So thank you for your presentation.
Anybody else? No? Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your presentation, and as Ellen said, we'll be digesting this.
We'll be in touch. Thanks.
Okay, with that, our first evening is finished, and so we will convene again on Tuesday at 6 o'clock for 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 other departments, which are mostly, a lot of them are presented by us. So see you then, gentlemen and ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
So long, everyone.